let's teach your Python programs how to talk, and more importantly, how to listen. We're about to dive into one of the most fun and powerful features in programming, getting information directly from a user and making your code truly interactive.
It's the big question, right? I mean, a program that just runs from top to bottom is fine, but the real magic happens when your code can pause, ask a question, and then actually use the answer it gets. That's exactly what we're tackling today.
Okay, let's get into it. To make our code listen, we need a special tool. And in Python, the hero of this whole story is one single super powerful function called input.
So what is user input anyway? Well, it's really just a fancy way of saying we're grabbing data from a person while the program is actually running. And in Python, the go-to tool for this job is a built-in function called input. It's that simple. And the best part? The syntax is just so straightforward. You just type input, and inside those parentheses, you can put a little message. That's what we call the prompt, and it's the text that pops up to tell the user what you want them to type in.
All right, enough talk. Let's actually have our very first conversation with a Python program. We're going to start super simple, just by getting some basic text from our user. Okay, look at this code. That first line, name equals input ... that's where the magic is. It asks, what is your name? And then it just waits. Whatever the user types, Python grabs it and stores it in that variable we've called name. Then the second line is easy. It just prints out a greeting using whatever name it just learned.
And this is what it looks like in action. The program prints our question. It pauses, and it waits. So a user named Alice types her name, hits enter, and boom, the program immediately uses that input to say hello. It's a perfect little back and forth conversation.
Okay, listen up. If you only remember one single thing from this entire explainer, make it this. It does not matter what the user types, a name, a whole sentence, or even the number 500. The input function will always give it back to your program as a string, a piece of text. This is a huge, huge deal, and you're about to see why.
And, that one single rule immediately brings up our next big problem. If everything is just text, how in the world are we supposed to do math? I mean, you can't add the word hello to the number 10, right? And you definitely can't add the text 21 to the number 1. So what do we do?
Well, the solution is something called type conversion. It's where we have to explicitly tell Python, hey, I know the user gave you some text, but I need you to treat it like a number. So, see what we did here? We've wrapped our input function inside another one, int. That's our direct instruction to Python. It says, go get the user's input, and whatever they type, please convert it into an integer, a whole number. And once it's a number, we can do math with it, like adding 1.
And here's the proof it works. The user types 21, Python sees that string and converts it to the number 21, adds 1 to get 22, and prints out the result. The conversion was a total success.
Now, just a quick heads up, because this is something you'll definitely run into. If the user types a word, like 20, instead of the digits 21, that int function is going to get confused, and, well, your program will crash. There are ways to handle that, but for now, just be aware that it can happen.
And, the exact same idea applies to decimal numbers. If you need a number that has a decimal point, you don't use integer. Instead, you use the float function. So in this example, we're asking for a weight, we convert that input to a float, and now we can use it in a calculation.
And as you can see, it works perfectly with decimals. The user types in 65.5, it gets converted to a float number, and our program can then do the multiplication exactly like we'd expect. All right, you have totally mastered getting one piece of information at a time. So now, let's learn a pro move that'll make your code way more efficient, getting multiple inputs from the user all on a single line. The secret here is a method called .split. The logic is actually pretty simple. First, we grab the whole line of text from the user, just like always. Then we use .split to chop that string up into little pieces wherever it sees a space. And finally, we can assign each of those pieces to its own separate variable. It's that easy. Now check out how we can chain all these ideas together. We call input, and then, right on the end of it, we immediately call .split. This one line neatly gives us two variables, x and y. But, and this is important, what was that core rule? Even after splitting, they're still strings, so we still have to convert each one to an integer before we can do any math with them. And the output shows it works like a charm. The user types 5, then a space, then 7. .split breaks them apart, int converts them, and our program correctly prints their sum, 12. Awesome. Oh, and here's a fantastic little tip. .split is super flexible. By default, yeah, it splits by spaces, but you can tell it to split by literally anything you want. Just put the character you want to use inside the parentheses, like a comma. This is so useful when you're dealing with different kinds of user input.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground really fast. So let's take a second and pull everything we've learned together into one single handy toolkit.
Think of this table as your go-to cheat sheet. If you just need some basic text, you use input. Easy. If you need a number, you just have to remember to wrap that input in either int or float. And if you want multiple inputs at once, you just tack on .split at the end. Honestly, the bottom line is this. With just these 3 patterns, you can handle almost any user input scenario you're ever going to run into.
And that really brings us to the end. You now have this incredible power to create programs that don't just talk at you, but actually listen to you. You can build calculators, simple text-based games, registration forms. I mean, anything that requires a conversation is now on the table. So the only question left is, what are you going to build first?